The part 2 begins. Len put on his mask and allowed it was his time to shine, and now that he has actuated his chops and his power has increased by due to his covert and shaft chops, he makes a skulk attack from before on the giant bear, striking the bear's neck, but he was not suitable to kill the monster in one shot, and now Ellen tells other dog faces to run down if they want to live and to buy them time to run. Ellen attacks the bear in his legs, and Eartha was enjoying the lift on Ellen's head. Eartha tells Dylan that you're back in covert status because it lost you, so this is your chance to attack him. Ellen focuses all of his power on his shaft, but he doubts that it can repel this attack, so he focuses all of his power on the bear's head and kills him in one shot. Ellen earnings a lot of experience and advances to level. He kills the position bear by himself, earning him the title 1 strike 1 kill. Bertha respects him and says he killed the bear with only 3 blows and no chops. Illinois was towards the dead body for butchering, but he saw that the monster body suddenly shrank in size, and Eartha tells him that it had a gigantify skill and the skill was undone after it failed. Ilan says, I also got a skill called critical strike after I leveled up, and Eartha tells him everything you do from fighting monsters to interacting with others will have a great influence on the development of your skill and your own growth, so continue to learn and grow more. Otto arrives on the scene and Earth says some other capability drug has arrived after everything was finished. The other capability druggers were surprised to see that Alen defeated this monster alone, so they went up to him and asked, did you formerly complete your alternate class advancement, or did you find a retired dungeon? But Dylan did not answer any of their questions, which bothered them, so they left because there were numerous other places that demanded help. After a while, Alen was suitable to gain the bear leather, which was enough sturdy it indeed veered the pellets. A military officer approaches Alen, but Dylan says these leathers are mine, and officer says he's not then to ask about leather, and he explains that there is a special app used by the military that informs you about the monster outbreak. Alen is relieved because he'll have no trouble chancing the monsters, but he asks the officer, is not this top secret information okay to partake with me? The officer responds that it's all for the safety of civilians, and if we can get relief of monsters beforehand, the damage will be reduced. Another officer comes and asks the first officer if we should try to force him to cooperate with us using whatever means we can, and the first officer says, do you suppose an capability stoner like him who killed a class monster with only 3 blows will hear to us? The officer further says that he has seen strong people leading the entire nation alone in the other world, so we must maintain a good relationship with him. Erda tells Alen that this officer is wise to form a fellowship with you if the service tries to force Alen to cooperate. Alen would presumably be suitable to destroy the entire army alone. Checks the app and discovers 3 locales with monster outbreaks, and he goes to master all of them, but he is bothered because his position only increases by 1 and he's still level early. Informs him that these monsters were low leveled and that you are a unique class stoner who requires further experience points to position up, else you would be a position by now. Alen says, at least we earned a lot from these monsters and we vended all these to the service, so now we've million bones in cash. Should I go and buy some property? And Ether says, if you use this plutocrat right now, they will fluently be suitable to track you and find your real identity. Don't worry, Eartha says, I will wipe the functionary's memory just for this occasion. The coming morning when Alen woke up, he saw an announcement that the broken connection with the other world has been restored, and from now on you can physically go to the other world where you were summoned. Ahead and complete searches to fluently level up. Alen realizes that he'll be alone again because he was not summoned before, so he cannot go anywhere indeed now, and asks Eartha what these mean, and Eartha says that the monsters on Earth are getting too important, so God used this system to help them, and Alen angrily responds that you want to shoot them to other worlds to safely position up. Alen cries and says what will be to him when everyone will go again to the other world, and now Eartha becomes a Sigma woman and says you're formerly alone, so what is the difference? Eartha says she cannot help him, and Alen asks would I no way be suitable to go to the other world? Further responds that if you come a lesser being like me, you'll be suitable to go to other worlds as well as Welkin really says villain, if I come a lesser being I can see Lita again, and Eartha thinks these two guys are in a long-distance relationship, and she thinks that means she should ask their runner of love, and Eartha plans to do a kick to shoot lovebirds down from heaven. Suddenly the new journalist on television says that starting to date there will be martial law in the country, and Elen's mama says this is presumably the situation throughout the world because of the monsters. All seminaries and companies are ordered to shut down. Alen tells his parents to go to the other world, and his mama says, honey, what's the point of going to the other world? I was there 4 times and still couldn't get a alternate class change. Alen worries that more important monsters will appear, so you should keep growing stronger. Elen's father understands and says if that's what you want, also we will do it, and he goes to the other world on the spot. Elen's mama shouts, why is he going in such a hurry? Elen's mama feeds him delicious food and tells him to be careful. Elen's mama further asks, are you the masked man who was hunting monsters? Alen gets shocked and asks, how did you know? And Elen's mama says, did you really suppose I wouldn't be suitable to fake you? I was surprised to see you on television, and indeed When you are wearing a mask and different clothes fate you. Elen realizes that his mama, just like a penguin always knows where their children are at all times, Elen's mama goes on to say that she doesn't know how well and becomes so strong, but she still worries about him and that humans are indeed scarier than monsters, so be conservative of them. Now Elen goes and washes the dishes and Eartha comes and tells her she's going to heaven to get quest prices, and Elen tells him to bring ice cream on the way back. Now we see that Dylan bought a storehouse unit with the plutocrat and is going to use this place as his factory. He is now using the bones and leather of monsters to make armor. Elen thinks it'll take a long time to harden the leather, but Eartha says you can do it with magic. Elen turns around and asks, did you bring the ice cream, but is surprised to see Erda in her full size. Erda asks Elen for his hand, not for marriage but to give prices. Elen shakes hands with Erda and receives announcement that all of his stats have been increased by 1, and because he has made the most benefactions he has entered in fresh price, which is eternal honey. Elen asks what an eternal honey is, and he sees that a fire has started inside the furnace, and Etha explains that it is a honey that will continue to grow without going out, and it's a precious honey of the Welkin. Elen gets joyous and says, this is exactly what I demanded, and Earth says, that's what I told Lita, you'll like it because she was eager to shoot so numerous gifts to you. Elen says she really understands what I need, and Eartha thinks that couples should go to hell. Erla continues, I have more good news. The Welkin had given you another quest because you could not go to the other world. And Earthy goes on to explain that you will be erecting a dungeon on Earth. Elen was shocked to hear that he'd to make a dungeon, and he said, I'm sure dungeons are great, but I do not suppose I can do that, but I can make some poles if you want. Shut up, This says the Welkin have declared that you will help in creating a dungeon, and Elen realizes that this quest isn't for him but to help out God, and Early defenses that it's for the Earth. So it's for you too. Earthen explains that when God stopped time on Earth, all beings on Earth were told by his powers gaining resistance to a strength and performing in responses that don't do in dungeons. Elen becomes enraged and asks, so what do you want from me? Further responds that Elen has been honing his chops for the 1,000 times, and his forging capacities are wholly making him the only person able of erecting a dungeon on Earth. Elen suspects that Gertha is trying to make him do commodity delicate, and Eartha responds that it's a pom-pom situation for both of us. You fulfill our orders and you get quest prices for your sweats. Elen asks what will be if I don't do anything, and Earth says the monster will have nowhere to go and humanity will suffer as a result. Erda provides Elen with some godly accoutrements and tells her that Herconium Paxinum and Alhazura are 3 accoutrements used by gods that are not available on Earth. Erda also provides some high-quality tools which make Cylon veritably agitated, but Erda tells him that she's only letting Elen adopt these particulars and that he must return them right down. Asks how he's supposed to make a dungeon out of these, and Eartha tells him that he must produce a magic tool to attract monsters and it'll transfigure the girding area and come a dungeon, and Eartha gives Villain the design for the magic tool named the Trap of Destruction. Ether looks at him and thinks that if Elen had chosen his class as a blacksmith, he might have been suitable to produce munitions that challenge the power of gods. Elen completes the introductory structure and begins inscribing magical textbooks on the cell. Elen successfully creates the magic tool, and he gets an announcement that he has awakened the maximum position of blacksmithing. He also gets a title called Creator of Legends, and due to this his product effectiveness increases by %. Eartha was surprised to see that Elen had formerly finished it, so Elen told her to check it herself, and Eartha realized it was perfect, but she prevaricated and said it only slightly passed the standard. Eartha told Elen she'd bring her fellow angels to put mana in the magical tool, and Elen asked if Lita was one of those fellow angels, but Eartha denied it. Now Erda's process other angels from heaven, and Elen realizes that all of the angels are veritably enough, and now Eartha tells everyone to start manic casting. Elen holds God's accoutrements in his hands, and an angel tells him that you just need to concentrate on having the will to complete the Trap of Destruction and set it up. All the angels placed their hands on Elen and transferred their mana into her body, and Elen was under violent pressure due to the manic coming from all directions. An angel asks if you're unfit to repel it, but Dylan says he'll do it, and he focuses on allowing about making a dungeon trap. The angels suppose that Dylan is a veritably important person because a normal mortal will black out under this important mana pressure. Elen gets a announcement that his metacraft has reached position and the magic tool is complete. Elen was in admiration at the point of the magic tools, and the angels were veritably shocked because he completed it on his first pass, and it indeed has nascence and beta options. Elen prodigies what nascence and beta are, and early explains that they're the fresh options that are attached to the product due to mana craft, and that nascence and beta options are extremely rare to appear on the first drafted particulars. The angels praise Elen and tell him to come with them while they set up the dungeon. Now the angels go to a place that is heavily attacked by monsters, and Ether puts the magic tool in the air and it just disappears in the air. Suddenly all of the monsters in the area are drawn to the position where the magical tool dissolved. Elen looks at the large crowd of monsters and realizes that all of these monsters have been alive for 1,000 times, but are now moving towards their own destruction because of the god's wishes. This is because God is so important and we humans are just dancing in the wind of his hands. And indeed if Felon was left before for 1,000 times just because of their one error, if Lita was not by his side he would have formerly gone insane. Elen resolves that he'll come strong enough that no bone will be suitable to control him and he'll gain his own freedom. Elen is in his home and there's news that the monster suddenly started to make unusual movements and the dungeon has appeared. Elen prodigies when his parents will return and he tries to imagine how it will look when his father and mama fight Earth. That appears and says that all the dungeons are working duly and Elen asks, "Did not you tell me I had to make more, so why did the angels return so I could renew my work?" Right down. Ether tells them that a tremendous quantum of mana is needed to spark the trap of destruction, and since they are all out of mana it'll take them 2 days to recover. Elen says, "You aren't the only angel." For illustration there's Leta too. Ether says, "Angels are not free at all and Lita is doing redundant tasks so that everything goes easy for you, so she will not be suitable to dispatch on Earth for the time being." Now the Dylan has returned to the factory. Eartha says she'll give him a small gift and she uses her magic to dry the leather in a moment which shocked and pleased Dylan. Ellen plans to make gloves and thrills from it after successfully creating rare grade direwolf leather gloves and direwolf leather thrills. Ellen was happy that the thrills have a ventilation option too. After a full day of work Ellen intends to make armor out of the bear leather. Ellen successfully creates the unique hard bear leather armor. Ellen further tries to strengthen the armor and he's suitable to add another retired point to the armor. It acts like a porcupine when in need of help. Erta asks why you always add some kind of blade to your outfit. Elen says it's a man's dream to use blades far and wide, and Earth says what kind of gibberish is this? Eartha claims that nascence and beta functions are present indeed now. Elen sees that there are still some bones left and effects to make a botcher cutter. He makes a rare grade bone cutter and he also makes a dire wolf cranium mask. When Elen puts on all of his armor and outfit, Etha asks what he did with the mask because after wearing it Elen's presence becomes indeed weaker. Suddenly a loud sound comes from outside. Bertha claims that there's still a monster that hasn't been captured by the dungeon and Elen wishes it was weaker than the big bear. Eartha was shocked and asked, "Are you hysterical of fighting?" "No, if it's stronger than the bear I need to strip its leather and make new armor." Ellen replied. Ellen tries to fix his shaft with the godly tools and suddenly the attack power of the shaft increases by. Ellen reaches the destination and sees a leopard, but the service is unfit to detriment and other people also are not suitable to indeed cut the leopard. Ellen believes that the Earth is his home and that he must cover it. Bertha tells Elend that this monster is stronger than the bear and Ellen uses a skulk attack to attack the leopard in its eyes. Everyone was glad to see Ellen and the service started to fire all the security at the leopard. Now the leopard has noticed Dylan, so Eartha tells him that he has to fight it head on. Everyone attacks the leopard because it was only fastening on Ellen, but suddenly a veritably strong bolt of lightning falls on the leopard. The attack came from a copter flying over and we see that there's a super hot woman sitting around who used the lightning attack. Everyone speculates that this girl might be the brooded empress, but everyone is shocked to see how enough the empress is. Now the leopard attacks Cylind with his head and everyone is upset about what will be to Willen, but everyone notices that Elen used the harpoons that came from his armor to attack the leopard on its head. The leopard throws Villain down from his head and now Ellen again makes a critical mega hit on the leopard. The leopard drops down, but Bertha tells Elen to accelerate up and kill the monster because this monster is on the verge of evolving into a class monster, and we see that a lot of muscles have started to come out of the injuries of the leopard. Elen continues to cut the tentacles such like muscles, but they grow so snappily that he can't keep up. A huge bolt of lightning strikes the leopard again and the Empress tells Elen that she cannot kill the monster with her attack because she's too low leveled. The Empress tells Elen that she can give a buff to Ellen, but after that her mana will completely deplete. Elen agrees and the Empress directly jumps from the copter and tells her that in order to buff it's necessary to make physical contact. The Empress says, "Now my life is in your hands," and she suckers Silent with all of her lightning mana. When Elen receives announcement that the Thunder Spirit has entered his body, his attack increases and a lighting trait is added to his attacks. Are the respects the Empress on her capability to hold mana while also attacking and buffing. Elen attacks with his lightning at its spear and kills the leopard in one shot, raising his position to and allowing him to relax. The Empress asked Cylind, "Is the leopard really dead?" and Elen says, "Did not you get some experience points?" The Empress realizes that they weren't in the party to partake it. Elen did not know about these systems because he was hunting each alone this whole time. Everyone started to cheer for Elen and the Empress and that asked Dylan why he was so sad, and Elen said, "Look at the cadaver, its leather is completely destroyed. I cannot make new armor from these." Eartha wanted to beat Elen from the core of his heart after the monster failed. Its corpse shrank in half and now people were agitating how they were going to distribute it. Elen comes and says dismembering cadavers is his specialty, but he asks how we're going to divide it. The Empress comes and says Elen will get, she'll take, and the rest will be divided among other people. Elen believes that if he gets, he will take the monster's mana core, which the Empress says will be enough for 60%, but the people started to differ and say that it wasn't fair. They also fought with their lives on the line. Agrees and says he'll not take the mana stone. "Are you really going to give them the mana stone?" Erta asks and Elen responds, "It's not easy to convert people in this situation. And my mama tutored me that working problems with words is delicate, so why bother? Arguing with words. Ellen must be descended from the Sigma family. Ellen says I'll hear to my mama's advice, and he now announces that he will not take mana stone. Still, if he gets indeed a little lower than of his share, no bone, then will be safe. Everyone was spooked as to how they were going to divide the impeccably, so they all agreed and said Ellen could take the mana stone. The Empress approaches Ellen and says she will again make the deal of giving in return for butchering her. The Empress now says she'll need to call for auto to transport all these, and Ellen thinks she really is a rich person. She indeed arrived by copter. The other people approach Ellen and ask him to butcher their share as well. At Bertha says, do they not have any shame? Just a moment before they were not letting you take the mana stone. Now Ellen tells them that he'll take % in exchange for butchering their share. Everyone began to argue that taking from the Empress and from them is demarcation, but everyone ultimately agreed because they did not have any other options. The Empress stops Ellen on his way back home and says your covert skill is amazing. I wouldn't have seen you if I wasn't fastening on you, and I want to form a party with you if you want. But Ellen declines the offer. The Empress says it's each right, and I am not so weak, but I have to go to another world to complete the searches, and you are the same, so take my business card as we will meet frequently. Ellen reads the card and finds that the real name of the Empress is Kong Miri, and he goes home. Now we see that Ellen has created numerous traps of destruction at his factory. Ether claims that a tertiary class monster is formally forming to explain what is wrong with Earth or the aesthetic set Dylan and yells at him, asking why he's so relaxed and if this is his problem, because the power balance is presently heavily piled in favor of the monsters. Ellen says he's not concerned because nothing will change, and he asks what about the other countries too, which Eartha responds that only our country will have a tertiary class monster, and Ellen points to the trap of destruction and says that must be the problem. Ether realizes that the trap caused the monsters to go berserk, causing them to evolve further. Tells Ellen that still the dungeons are veritably important because outside the dungeon monsters eat humans to evolve, but when they're in dungeons they infrequently fight with each other, which slows down their growing. Ellen says if dungeons are really important, also I should make some further. Eartha asks Ellen if he likes to make new effects, and Ellen says yes, because there is always some change in them and I gain numerous new jests from them. And Arthur realizes that Ellen spent 1,000 years alone in an unchanging world Fleck. That is why he likes change. The angels who had recovered their mana returned at night, and they left to produce further dungeons. Bertha assures him that the tertiary position monsters that are approaching are not Ellen's fault and that he's doing an excellent job. This is your Manhwa. If you enjoyed the videotape, please subscribe to my channel. Check out this stupendous videotape, and thanks for watching.